Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Risna and my student number is 2005-0x6076. I'm from C class of 2020 and today I'd like to present material with related to core sociolinguistics. Title is Language Choice in Multilingual Communities of EFL Context. First material is domains of language use. Certain social factors like who you are talking to, the social content of the talk, and the function and the topic of the discussion turn out to be important in accounting for language use in many different kinds of speech community. It has proved very useful, particularly when describing code choice in large speech communities to look at typical interaction which involve these factors. Domain of language use, a term popularized by Joshua Wiseman, an American sociolinguist. A domain involves typical interactions between typical participants in typical settings. We can imagine, for instance, a typical family interactions. It will be like located in the setting of the home, and then the typical participant will obviously be family members like fathers, mothers, daughters, and so on. And also, typical topics will be like family activities. Now we move to modeling variety or code choice. So domain is clearly a very general concept which draws on three important social factors in code choice, participants, setting, and also topic. It is useful for capturing both generalizations about any speech community, using information about the domains of use in a community. It is possible to draw a very simple model summarizing the norms of language use for the community. This is often particularly useful for bilingual and multilingual speech communities. It is not an account of the choice a person must make or of the process they go through in selecting a code. It is a discover more information. It will be possible, for instance, to add other domains after school, for instance, such as the poop or the low chord. Models make it easy to compare the varieties appropriate in similar domains in different speech communities. And a model is also useful to a newcomer in a community as a summary of the appropriate versions of code used in the community. A model describes which code or codes are usually selected for use in different situations. Now we move to other social factors affecting coded choice. People may select a particular variety or code because it makes it easier to discuss a particular topic, regardless of where they are speaking. At home, people often discuss work or school, for instance, using the language associated with those domains, rather than the language of the family domain. Some describe this as leakage, suggesting it is in some way irregular. The code associated with one domain is leaking into another. In fact, it is quite normal and very common. Particular topics might be regularly be discussed in one card rather than another, regardless of the setting or addresses. The status relationship between people may be relevant in selecting the appropriate code. A high status official will be addressed in standard in another country in many contexts. In Singapore, English is the most frequently selected code for official transactions, regardless of the speaker's ethnicity. Social role might also be important and is often a factor contributing to status differences between people. Typical role relationships are like teacher pupil, doctor patient, soldier civilian, priest parishioner, official citizen, and so on. And the first name role is often the more statusful. Now we move to diglossia, a linguistic division of labor. In the narrow and original sense of the term, diglossia has three crucial features. The first one is that two distinct varieties of the same language are used in the community, with one regarded as a high or H variety and the other a low or L variety. And the second is H variety is used for quite distinct functions. H and L complement each other. And last one, no one uses the H variety in everyday conversation. No one uses age for everyday interaction. In Arabic-speaking countries, for instance, classical Arabic is referred as the language of the Quran. It is taught in school and used for very formal interaction and in writing. And reading. But for most everyday conversation in Arabic-speaking countries, people use the everyday colloquial variety. Now we move to change in a diglossia situation. So here the table of the example change in a diglossia situation. So diglossia has been described as a stable situation. It is possible for two varieties to continue to exist side by side for centuries. Ireland was diglossic in the province after 1066 when the Normans were in control. French was the language of the court, administration, the legal system, and high society in general. English was the language of the peasant in the fields and the street. The following words provide a nice illustration of the relations. You can see on the table here. And then the English call become French view is it moved from the farm to dinner table. However, by the end of the 14th century, English had displaced French will absorbing huge numbers of or French words such as beef, mutton, veal, and also pork. So there were no language domains in which French was the appropriate language to use. The last one is lexical borrowing. So it is obviously important to distinguish this kind of switching from switches which can be accounted for by lack of vocabulary in language. When speaking a second language, for instance, people will be often use a term from their mother tongue or first language because they don't know the appropriate word in their second language. The switch are triggered by lack of vocabulary. People may also borrow words from another language to express a concept or describe an object or for which there is no obvious word available in the language they are using. Borrowing of this kind generally involves single words, mainly known, and it is motivated by a lexical need. It is very different from switching words because have a genuine choice about which words or phrases they will use in which language. Borrowed words are usually adapted to speakers for the first language. They are pronounced and used grammatically as if they were part of the speaker's first language. Right, maybe that's all for my presentation. Uh, I'm sorry if there's some mistaken. Thank you so much for the attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you and have a good day.